Minecraft The Mountain by Max Brooks. Introduction. If you found this book, then you already know about the strange block-built world around you. And if you found my first book, you know about how I initially got to know it. You've already read about how I spawned in the ocean, all alone, near an island, and how learning to survive on that island taught me not only about this world, but about me as well. And if you didn't know that, now you do. If this is the first book you found, don't worry, I'll fill you in as we go along. All you need to know is that this story picks up where the other one left off. And while I thought I'd learned a lot already, I had no idea that my real education was just getting started. Chapter 1. Cold. The feeling changed everything. It'd been about a day and a half since I left my little block-shaped shore, and I don't mind admitting that I was barely seconds from going back. It wasn't the first time I turned tail and paddled. A few days after landing on that strange new land, I'd learned enough about crafting to accidentally produce a boat, like the one I was riding in now. That time, I'd been so inexperienced, so scared and frazzled and eager to escape, that I'd rushed right down to the beach and sped off at full speed for the horizon, and nearly got myself lost at sea. This time, what felt like a lifetime later, I'd been determined not to repeat the same impulsive mistake. I'd spent a week provisioning myself for a long journey. I had plenty of food, tools, raw materials for crafting, and most important, navigation aids like a compass and a nearly blank map. I say nearly because my little island appeared in the map's far east corner. And I mean appeared. The moment I lifted it off the crafting table, the entire tan surface filled with a small, perfect, top-down recreation of my island. And me, I was on there, represented by a small white arrow that turned and moved along with me in real life. I remember thinking, this is awesome, and with a compass, I'll never be lost. Following the manual I'd found in the mineshaft, I'd learned how to expand the map by surrounding the original copy with 8 more pieces of sugarcane paper. I'd done it several times, until the island had shrunken to a little brown and green speck, surrounded by a thin blue ring and then a giant blank space. So small in such a big, unexplored world. I still remember that mix of emotion, fear tinged with excitement. What's out there? I'd have to wait another few weeks before finding out. That's how long it took me to write down my first book, leaving it to whomever might follow me. It was a record of all my adventures and the lessons that came with them. And that last lesson was the one that drove me back to sea. Growth doesn't come from a comfort zone, but from leaving it. It sounded so cool at that time, so brave and true. It rang in my head as I said goodbye to my animal friends rowing west, turning occasionally to see everything I'd known fade slowly into the distance. Smaller and smaller. Just like on the map. First went the lowlands, then the hill, then my house on top of the hill, and finally, the cobblestone observation tower that stretched far up into the clouds. Growth doesn't come from a comfort zone, I said, turning back to the now setting sun, but from leaving it. I don't know how many times I repeated that phrase, aloud and in my head, as the sun dipped, the sky darkened, and the pale crescent moon, shaped like my island I thought with an odd pang of homesickness, rose behind me. Hesitation. There's gotta be land out there, I told myself. Sooner or later, you'll spy something up ahead. It wasn't fear that slowed me down. At least, that's what I told myself. You don't want to miss something in the dark. Another island, low and without a hill. It might be the start of a larger chain. Too fast and you'll pass right by. That's what I thought, scanning back and forth while being extra careful not to veer off course. The compass helped, its red-tipped needle pointing straight back to my original spawn point. The map helped too, filling in a straight, thick, unbroken blue line as I went, almost as if by magic. No land, it silently told me. Not yet. I thought about stopping altogether, taking a break, waiting for dawn. At least then, I could be sure not to bypass any land in the dark. I still wasn't 100% sure that the map's vision was the same as mine. If I can see even a little bit beyond what it was marked, that's when I ran off the edge. Off the map, I mean, not the world. The next time I checked, I saw that I paddled right off the western border of my paper. My interactive arrow was now a static circle. When had that happened? How long ago had I checked it? I should have been calculating distance and time, keeping track of where and when. And what if I did run off the edge of the world? Didn't people used to think my world, my real original spawn point, was flat? Didn't some dum-dums still insist this was true, even though a universe of evidence proved them wrong? But there was no evidence in this world. No proof that it was round. So much was different here. Gravity, bodily functions, even time. Each day was only 20 minutes. For all I knew, this ocean might just end at a giant waterfall. One that I couldn't see until I rode right off the edge. Don't freak out, I thought. Just make a new map. But of course I couldn't. Maps needed a crafting table, which needed solid ground. And it really wouldn't help, I thought nervously. The map only fills in where I've been. It can't tell me where I'm going. I have no idea where I'm going. Lost again. No, I still had the compass, but that little metal disc nearly did more harm than good. The problem wasn't mechanical, but psychological, because as I began to stare obsessively at the needle, I could almost hear it beckoning me home. Come on, it seemed to say. Just follow me. No more unknown. No more worries about what might be out there. I tried not to think of my island, my snug little cottage, and my soft, comfy bed. Just follow me, said the compass, and I'll take you right back to your safe place. It'll be so easy. Come on. I knew the only way to keep those feelings away was to keep them way behind me. I knew if I stopped, I'd turn back. And just like my last lesson had driven me to start this expedition, my very first one drove me forward. Keep going. Don't give up. And I didn't. I tried to keep focused on the here and now. Oars splashing. Eyes scanning. Something darted off to my right. A quick flash of black amidst white mini-cube splashes. Just a squid, I said, trying to comfort myself. There are no sea monsters. Or at least none you've encountered yet. Flat world. Sea monsters. Just follow me home, taunted the compass. As the moon set in front of me, and the first rays of the sun warmed my back, I couldn't believe I hadn't seen so much as a distant cube of land. Nothing? I blurted to the empty expanse of blue. Really? Nothing? There were no hints of salvation. Like that first underwater mountain that had turned out to be my island. Nothing. The submerged hills below never came close to the surface. Not even a dry reef to stop and rest on. Keep going, never give up, I chanted. But for how long? How could I fight both my own doubts and the cop-out compass ganging up on me? Maybe if I just turned back for a little bit. Not all the way home, just retracing my course. Seeing if I missed some spot of land last night. Keep going. Now what's wrong with heading back to the island? Take a few days to rest. Start off in another direction. Never give up. There's 3 other directions, right? 3 other chances to find something. That's not giving up. That's just restarting, rebooting, cool. The feeling changed everything. I'd still been moving forward. Slowly, but forward. And that bare minimum of motion had been enough to push me into a pocket of chilled air. Woof, I breathed, feeling a slight chill run down my spine. I slowed to a stop. letting every corner of my square brain switch on. Was this a seasonal change? Do seasons change in this world? And if this was the first hint of autumn, wasn't it coming from the wrong direction? My face was distinctly colder than the back of my neck. The two sides of my fat head were equally cool. So, this new rush of crisp air wasn't coming from north or south. Due west, directly in front of me. How's that possible? Isn't climate supposed to get colder the farther north, and I guess farther south you go? Maybe in my world, but not here. I thought back to another lesson from the island. Just because the rules don't make sense to you doesn't mean they don't make sense. Due west it is, I said, and started paddling slowly forward. I crept forward by inches, or rather by mini cubes. I couldn't afford to miss anything now. I had to be sure that what I was feeling was real. And it was. The farther west I went, the cooler the air got. I did pause at some point, when, unexpectedly, I felt my face start to warm. Did I pass through it? I wondered. Was this some sort of weird trick of the weather? A pocket of Arctic air? No, it was just the sun finally coming up to start shining directly in front of me. And as I started up again, I could feel those warm rays nullified by an overall plunge in temperature. I rode all day, stopping only for a short lunch of baked potatoes. At least this world kept them eternally warm. I needed all the help I could get, because by the time the sun started setting, I was well and truly chilled. My teeth chattered, and I wished this world would let me blow my hands, or at least rub them together. It'd been a long time since I found any fault with the rules of my body or clothing. My crafted armor was great for protection against mobs, but in this cold, I realized that the painted on duds beneath them were no more than a decoration. If only I packed a sweater, I thought, as the wind prickled my exposed skin. If only I knew how to craft one. I might have had the materials to make warm clothes. I'd packed extra wool and some spider silk. Maybe one of them or both combined. I stopped again, hoping that some mix of those items might come up with a warmer clothing. Big mistake. Not only could I not craft any winter wear, but stopping robbed me of any heat generated by movement. I also should have been more concerned with daylight, and not just for the warmth of the sun. Darkness. Blindness. I had to slow, again, to make sure I didn't swish past the very thing I sought. Don't think about the cold, I shivered, as the night seemed to suck every last bit of heat from my body. Fingers stinging, flat ears numb, jaw aching from clenched iron-tight muscles. Don't think about the cold. Stay focused. Keep your eyes peeled for land? Something up ahead. A dark mass that hid the lowest stars. Land. A hill, just like my island. No, more of them. Spreading out the closer I got. And covered in white. Snow. It had to be. Aw yeah, I crowed, thrashing the oars about wildly. Finally. Those were definitely hills. So many, they stretched from one end of the horizon to the other. Not pure white, but mixed with lines of dark cubes. Is that a tree? I could see one, then several, sparsely scattered against a flat, pale beach. Yes, I hissed. These are trees. This is land. I've made it. I'm safe. I wasn't paying attention to what was right in front of me. My eyes were so focused on the hills and trees that I didn't quite notice the change in the color of the water. I didn't notice the thick, light blue crust that extended out from the shore. Crash. I hit something hard enough to splinter my boat. I fell into the water, sank to the bottom. Freezing. You must know that feeling. That first millisecond when you plunge into the ocean, or a lake, or a swimming pool that you thought was heated and realized, too late, that it isn't. That was me, trapped in body-slamming shock, I writhed for a second, let out a huge bubble of woo as I shot quickly for the surface and hit my head. The light blue water was hard. Ice. Panicked and punching. Mini-cubes cracks sealing with each blow. Where was Edge? Looking around frantically in the dark, this way and that, swimming like a trapped fish. Lungs burning, bubbles escaping from my mouth. I couldn't believe it. Drowning, again, clawing for the surface. The stars above. My face pressed against the ice. Air. Can't reach. Crack. The first snap as the last of my lungs' breath vanished. Pain. Clear and cruel. And with it, clarity. Panic drowns thought. Crack. Seconds left. But seconds used, not wasted. The iron-tipped pickaxe on my belt, now in my hands. Crack. Bashing its tip against the ice, giving way. Crack. Smash. Exploding up onto the hard, slick surface. Oh, a deep animal breath. For a second, I just stood there, because this world wouldn't let me lie down, shaking in pain, too dazed to even see straight. Hyperhealing. I'll never take it for granted. As my lungs recovered and my oxygen-starved brain cells restarted, I felt pain give way to hunger. And thanks to this world, the food in my pack was, like me, insta-dry. Bread baked, still warm, but not hot. Not enough to banish the chill. What's that word when you get too cold and start getting sluggish? Hypertherm, hypo, something? Was it happening already? What did freezing to death feel like? I thought I remembered, vaguely, that it actually felt warm right before the end. Which means I must still be alright, I thought, shaking violently between bites of bread. If I am hypothermia eating, I guess it's not in the final stages yet. But what about getting sick? You get cold, then you get a cold. Wasn't winter the time where everybody caught something? Didn't parents yell at their kids to dress warmly before going out to play in the snow? What could I catch? What diseases does this world have? There was nothing in my island, but this was a whole new land. Hadn't that happened on my world? Hadn't explorers set off to discover new lands only to discover new illnesses? Hadn't some of those explorers wiped out whole civilizations because of the illnesses they brought with them? What did that mean for me? What if there were new sicknesses crawling around this new land, and my body was too cold and weak to fight them off? And if there were anything like being poisoned by a spider, or a witch, or even that horrible gut storm I'd caught from eating the raw chicken that time? Stay focused, I said firmly to myself, gulping down the last of my hyper-healing fuel. Stay calm. I took a few breaths, forcing myself to relax and to stop spiraling. Panic drowns thought, I chattered, moving my body to get the blood flowing. It worked. A little. I must have been generating just enough heat to feel my toes hurt. That's it, I said between deep calming breaths. Keep moving. A few more jumps. A quick run in a tight circle. And I could even feel the end of my nose. Calm down. I breathed slowly, feeling my body and mind release the tension I was building up with my panicked thoughts. With calm came clarity, and with clarity came the method for calmly devising my next steps, which I called the way of the cube. Plan, prepare, prioritize, practice, patience, and persevere. Prioritize. I need shelter, both to get warm and, if nights here are anything like on my island, to get away from a familiar gurgling in the distance. Oh no! End of Chapter 1. Minecraft The Mountain by Max Brooks. Chapter 2. I knew that sound, that burbling, gravelly growl. I spun to my left, looked down the beach. There it was, black against the snow, slouching slowly into the ice. Cool. Some welcoming committee, I sneered, reaching for my sword and shield. Cool. Arms raised, face lifeless. Here's hoping these zombies aren't any tougher than the island type. They're not. At least this one wasn't. One sparkling swipe of my diamond blade sent it skidding across the frozen water. Here we go, I said, charging forward for a second blow. I don't want to brag, but, well, okay, maybe I do just a little. But in case you didn't find my first book back on the island, you should know that I fought enough of these mindless meatbags to make sure Frosty the Dead Man didn't lay one fatigued finger at me. A few slashes, a final slice, then puff. I was standing over a rotting hunk of meat. And to think, I thought, picking up the scrap of carrion, that there was a time when I'd been so hungry that I actually lived in this stuff. Is that it? I shouted to the white hills. Is that all you got? Thunk! The arrow hit me square between the shoulder blades, knocking me forward onto the snowy beach. Click. Clickety-clack. I turned just in time to take another arrow, right in the forehead of my diamond helmet. Its owner, a skeleton, was lining up his next shot when I raised my shield to block. No problem, I thought, calculating how many shots I'd have to deflect before getting close enough to strike. Then, thok! Another arrow, this one into my right shoulder. A second skeleton. No, two more, a little ways down the beach. Then, ooh, sp. Click, click, click. My head swung in a quick circle, taking in the entire scene. They were all around me, zombies, skeletons, and those utterly terrifying spiders, their crimson eyes sparkling in the night. How could I have been so careless, so arrogant? Mobs spawned on darkened ground, and right now there was more ground than I had ever seen. How could I have forgotten it so quickly? Overconfidence can be as dangerous as having none at all. Click. Sp. Ooh. Run! I headed for the only opening I could, a narrowing gap between two approaching zombies. Inland, toward the hills. Whoosh! An arrow passed my ears. Zigzag, my mind screamed through haze of fear. Darting back and forth, practicing what has saved me so many times before. Goo. A rotting hand reaches for me. Dodge. No time to hit back. Go, go, go. I made for the shortest hill in front of me, with the easiest slope. Maybe I could find a cave, or even just a hole to block up behind me. Up, over dirt and rock. Thok! An arrow buried deep in the stone block next to my head. Harder to climb, harder to dodge. A zombie hand reaching for my foot. Higher, almost there. A spider's hiss just behind me. The summit. I made it to the top, scanned the landscape before me, and discovered the true meaning of irony. Way back, when I first climbed the stunted hill on that alien angled island, all I'd wanted was to see more land. I hoped, prayed, that I reached the tip of a continent instead of a dust speck surrounded by sea. Now, here, my wish come true. Frozen tundra stretched to the horizon, an endless white wasteland broken only by the occasional tree, or exposed rock, or roving, shifting shapes that couldn't be anything else but mobs. Too much land, too many threats. What to do, where to go? A light, far in the distance, clear and bright. Not a star. It seemed reddish, orange. Maybe from a house? Wait, there might be other people? Cool. With no other option, I tore down the western slope, trying not to slip. I couldn't afford a twisted ankle now, even with my hyper healing. No time to eat. I could see mobs converging on me from all sides. Fast spiders, steady zombies, and the ever-clicking archers of bone. And then, I hadn't seen one until now, but there was no excuse not to have expected one. Sssss. A flashing out of the corner of my eye, a creeper just about to explode. I jumped, taking the blast in midair, Shot away like a cannonball, I landed hard in a shallow ditch. Ankles aching, ears ringing, the whole right side of my face feeling like it had kissed a furnace. Keep going, make for the light. But where was it? Turned around by the explosion, and without the view from high ground, I lost track of it. Use your head, I shouted in my head. Don't panic. I rotated slowly, trying to find the hill. It was right behind me, which meant the light was directly up ahead. I took off at a limp, which hyperheeled into a wobbly trot. There it was again, closer now, growing with each forward step. An arrow passed barely 1 minicube past my face. Another skeleton clacking from around a lone tree. Keep going. Dodging arrows, watching for creepers. Enemies everywhere, even the ground. Yes, the ground. Up and down, across unlevel terrain. Ditches and hummocks, and now a river. Right in front of me, at the bottom of a gully. Doc! Shot in the pain of my back, tumbling down into the ice below. Pain. Hunger. My hyperhealing spent. I got up, ready to keep running, then skidded to a halt as the snow before me moved. The animal was large, white, and shuffling slowly on all fours. At first, I thought it might be what, an Arctic cow? No, too big. Plus the small ears, black nose, and a long dog-like snout. A polar bear, it had to be. Had I read about it in that wildlife book I found? I couldn't remember. Probably not. I'd probably skip that section on the assumption I'd never meet one. Never assume anything. And there wasn't any time to read the book, even if I had it now instead of having it left back on the island for another potential castaways who might end up there. If this carnivore was as fierce as the rounder versions in my world, the bear swung its black-eyed face towards me. I switched from sword to bow. Maybe a lucky shot, maybe two. I drew back the arrow. Our eyes met. Mammal eyes, like the animals who became my friends on the island. Cow and sheep. Warmth and feeling. Just because someone who doesn't look like you doesn't automatically make them an enemy. The bear didn't move. I strained at the bowstring. Okay, I breathed. I don't want to kill you, and I don't really want to be killed. But if you take the tiniest step closer, whoop! An arrow streaked through the frigid night to bury itself in the bear's hulking mass. Not my arrow. I'd already lowered my bow. The shot had come from behind me, from the skeleton on my tail. The snow-colored giant flashed red, turned toward me, and charged at a shocking speed. Whoa, 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 I yelped, dropping my bows in a sideways skitter. That wasn't me. I didn't. But it was already past, taking another arrow as it raised up on hind legs to crash down on the doomed skeleton. Whoa, I whispered, watching in awe as the sheer brute force of this Arctic predator utterly pulverized his tormentor. That could have been me. As the skeleton poofed away, the bear swung back in my direction. Hey now, I said, picking up my bow. We're good, right? You just fight to defend yourself. You seem pretty neutral, and since you obviously don't attack on eye contact like those creepy Endermen, I bet we can get along just fine. In fact, I started looking around in my pack of food. Do bears eat veggies and grains? Are you hungry? I asked. Would food help you heal? I swapped my bow for a carrot. Sorry, I don't have any fish or meat on me, but I took a step forward, holding out my peace offering. Will this work? Maybe we can be friends, I thought, just like Moo back on my island. How cool would that be? With this bad boy as my traveling sidekick, we'll be a force to be reckoned with. Tuck, tuck. 2 arrows smacked into the ice between us. Maybe later I shouted over my shoulder as I took off running. 2 more skeletons came clacking over the lip of the gully. Dashing back up the other side, I could see that a spider, 3 zombies, and a silent gliding creeper were all in pursuit as well. I couldn't depend on another bear save. I guess that arrow had been meant for me. No choice but to get away, make for the light, and hope against hope that it held my salvation. Most mobs give up chase after a while, and zombies couldn't catch up if I kept running. An arrow whooshed past my face, turning my head. Another skeleton? Off to my left? But was it a skeleton? Clothing, or rather, gray tatters, hung over its bony form. Like the polar bear, this was new and unexpected. As was the arrow that hit the heel of my left foot. What the... My speech slurred, and my muscles locked up. Back on the island, a witch had splashed me with a potion of slowing. This arrow felt like it had done exactly the same thing. Oh, come on, I verbally sloshed, trying to dodge as more arrows punctured my hip and arm. Slogging, trudging. I could hear the approaching zombies, closing the distance, helped by this new ragged skeleton. A team effort, or just some really bad luck. Another slow arrow whizzing past me, buried in the snow, gray bubbles rising from its feathered shaft. Keep dodging, keep going, keep your eyes on the growing light. So close, like a wall of orange, with the top much higher than any hill. A collection of torches, I wondered? A castle, maybe? In this world of armor and swords, why not? The castle with other people like me, armed and armored and ready to defend me from anything this cold, dark continent can muster. It has to be, I thought, feeling hope well up inside me. Almost the lava. I was close now, close enough to make out that bright wall was just a river of molten rock. I'd run all this way, been shot and socked, just to get within sight of this world's version of volcano. I looked back at the approaching mobs. No, I sighed. What else could go wrong? I fell, right through the snow, right into a half-frozen pond at the bottom of a black snow-covered hole. Erg, I grunted, seeing that there was no way up. Too dark to see. I groped in my belt for a torch. Was about to stick it to the wall, then heard the groans and hisses of the approaching mobs above me. Dig! It wasn't a conscious thought, just pure instinct. How many times in the past had burrowing saved my life? That first battle with the first island zombie. And that last, final time, I'd been cornered in near death in the abandoned mine. Dig, out with my shovel, into cold, hard dirt. Down, making steps, diagonally, deeper. Blocking them up behind me. Safe. I placed a torch on the high step, then turned back to the wall of soil. Not so bad, I said aloud, as my breathing slowed and my thinking sped. This is what I was going to do originally, right? Back there on the beach. Dig a shelter, sleep till dawn, no problem. After a rejuvenating snack of carrots and bread, I began to hollow out a 3x3 chamber with just enough headspace to stand. Okay, I said, setting down the pre-made bed. By morning, the mobs will burn away, and I can get better luck at where I am. Slipping under the thin red sheet, I yawned. And sleep is just what I need right now. Rest my body, rest my brain. I felt my eyes drift closed. Be nice to finally get some sleep. But I didn't. Go. The zombie moaned through the dirt. It was right overhead, barely a few blocks above me, and there were more mobs showing up. I didn't know if they were the ones that followed me, or if they were newly spawned. But it sounded like a heck of a party up there. Clacking and hissing, and, I'm sure, suddenly gliding like those creeper bombs do. Can they blow up without seeing you, I wondered? If they've got different type of skeletons here, then maybe a different kind of creeper too. Sp! I jumped at the spider's hiss, picturing those red target sensors staring right through the earth toward me. Calm down. Think. If they wanted to get me, they would have done it by now. More moans, more hisses. I knew they couldn't get me, but I repeated the "you can't get me" out loud to the earthen ceiling. Go, moaned the zombie, as if to say, maybe not, but we can sure keep you up all night. That's what you think, I barked at them. Jumping out of bed, I punched it back up to my pack, then started shoveling away at the dirt floor. Deeper, I called to the monsters above. Just a little deeper and safer, so you can't mess with my head. And I knew it was all in my head. I knew I was making myself crazy with nerves. But if the solution was as simple as a deeper hole, why not go that way instead of trying to calm myself down all night? As dirt gave way to stone, I chirped, "Perfect," and exchanged my shovel for the pickaxe. Even creepers can blast through a couple layers of solid rock. A short time later, I had a hollowed out bunker. With cobblestone sealed up behind me, I set my torches on the wall, my bed back on the smooth, hard floor, and jumped in for a good night's rest. Safer, and even warmer, from all the built-up body heat. A final baked potato to make up for those calories lost, and now, mentally and physically, I couldn't have been more satisfied. Made it, I thought, snuggling under my blanket. Made it to a new land, made it past an army of monsters, and now I'm finally ready to continue my quest. Another yawn, eyes closing. Tomorrow's gonna be a good day. I might even find my way home. End of chapter 2.
Chapter 3. Cold. Again. And this time, it was worse than when I first rode into it. This time, I woke up shaking, chilled right down to my bones. Woof, I gasped, jumping onto the icy floor. Tight muscles, spasming limbs. Was all my chattering teeth could say. Of course, I should have planned for this. All that built-up body heat couldn't last. Lying still at night, surrounded by warmth-sucking stone. I could have at least laid down a furnace, thrown in coal and all that extra cobblestone I've gotten from building this underground refrigerator. Maybe, I thought, punching up my bed and heatless torches. I'll just lay down a plank of wood and set it on fire with a flint and steel. Just enough flames to warm my face and hands. But I realized I couldn't stay hidden underground, burning my supplies, and burning daylight. Given how short the days were in this world, I couldn't waste one more minute in this hole. Time to go, I stuttered, like an old-timey cartoon character. At least the sun will keep me warm. I broke down my cobblestone door, marched up into my earthen room, collected all the torches I left to keep the mobs at bay, and prepared to break down the dirt wall. Click, click, click. I stopped, hearing the skeleton on the other side. "Ah, no," I said through frozen earth. "Not this time. You think I don't know what you're up to? Waiting there in that shaded little pond hole, safe from the sunlight, hoping I'll be dumb enough to just come blundering to your arrows." Click, 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 came the response, which had to be, yeah? "Well, it ain't gonna happen," I answered, and turned my shovel on the opposite wall. I'll just tunnel the other way, up into the bright, safe sun. I dug a stairway to daylight, and could almost taste the rays on my face, banishing the cold, bathing me in hot, welcome. Oh, come on! Breaking through the earthen room, a small diamond-shaped flake of 4 mini cubes came fluttering slowly into my face. A snowflake. It was snowing up there. "Come on," I whined, coming up into this world's version of a blizzard. So much for being warmed by the sun. Each flake felt like a stinging, icy needle on my skin, an assault by nature itself. "What did I ever do to you?" Click, click, click. The skeleton, laughing at me from where was the hole? Turning in its direction, all I saw was unbroken ground. There had to have been an entrance last night. How else could I have fallen through it? The snow didn't help, obscuring my vision with its curtain of infinite sting flakes. I could have just backed up, left it alone, gone on with my journey, and remembered my rule about careful curiosity. I actually thought I was being careful as I stepped gingerly forward, eyes on the ground, ears guided by the invisible assistant clacking. I was sure that I'd see the hole in front of me any second. Whoosh! Right through the snow. I fell back down into the cave and into the freezing pond. Doc! An arrow in my chest, and the gray, lipless smile of an approaching skull. I raised my shield, deflected the second shot, and then swung my sword and felt dry bones crack against the edge of my diamond blade. The skeleton must have already been weakened by the morning light. It turned to smoke before I could swing again. "What the?" I started to say, looking up at what appeared to be a solid, white ceiling. It was thin, no more than a mini cube at most. What was this? Quicksand or quick snow? How could I fall through something without even leaving a mark? And when I tried to touch the ceiling, just one punch, mind you, the whole roof spontaneously shattered. "New lands, new rules," I said as a chilled bolt shot up my spine. In the heat of battle, I'd forgotten that I was standing in waist-deep, ice-cold water. Get moving, get warm. Digging out a staircase to the surface, I poked my head out with a renewed caution. There might be other mobs waiting for me there, protected from the morning sun by the heavy, gray sky overhead. I made sure to scan the horizon, looking for anything moving on its own. There was that polar bear from last night, shuffling around as if its recent battle had never happened. There was what looked like a creeper, but so far away I couldn't be certain. And there were a few of those little, hopping dots, barely visible between the falling flakes. I can't tell you how disconcerting that moment was, trying to make out shapes from far away. Back on my island, everything had been so close, even down below in the lava canyon, and below it in the abandoned mineshaft. Nothing had ever been further away than a couple dozen blocks. Now, in this vast expanse, I almost felt lost at sea again, but with a whole new assortment of shapes and threats to identify. And now my own alley, the sun, had taken holiday at the worst possible moment. Back down to the bunker, I wondered, light a fire, have breakfast, and wait for the snow to stop, even if that means holding up for another day. As I weighed that increasingly attractive option, my tortured eyes swung into view of the volcano, red, glowing, close enough to reach in a few minutes. If I'm looking to warm up, I reasoned, that's a whole lot hotter than a furnace, and once the snow stops, climbing to the top will give me a better view. It wasn't exactly the rousing start to my day that I hoped for. My nose burned from the cold, along with my ears and fingertips, and my teeth chattered so hard I thought they might actually crack. I couldn't feel my cheeks. Rather, I felt like they were thick, heavy pads glued to my face. That's what happens when you lose all feeling in them. That's how my toes felt as well, how hard I tried to wriggle them. Will I lose them? I wondered nervously. Isn't that what happens to people who are out in the cold too long? What's the term for that? Frostbite, the metaphor for being attacked by the cold. Or hyperhealing fix frostbite? I wondered, blinking red, raw eyes. Something darted off to the side, something small, fast. A silverfish? A surface-dwelling version of those tiny foot nibblers? Another one, in front of me this time, just beyond a small hummock. Sword ready, I charged, and came face to face with nothing more than a black and white bunny rabbit. Phew, I breathed, and then, with a twinge of embarrassment, said, "Sorry if I scared you. I guess I'm just a little jumpy." The rabbit wasn't listening, too busy bouncing back and forth through the snow. "Hey," I said, reaching into my belt for a carrot, "you hungry?" But it was too far away to notice, as it hopped away over the pale expanse. "Hey, look," I called, trying to catch up. "Quick snow!" The thought of falling through one of those invisible traps slowed my steps. "Hey, Hopper," I hollered again, waving the orange root. "Look what I've got for you." The rodent ignored me, vanishing through the fallen snow. 2 for 2, I thought morosely. First the bear, now the bunny. No luck yet with making any new animal friends. At least I was closer to the volcano, and with each approaching step, I could feel the increasing, welcome heat. I sighed at the prickling sensation of what had to be blood returning to my frostbitten skin. At about 10 blocks, I stopped and just absorbed the heat. I could feel it on my face and arms, and after a few thawing moments, there was even a tingling in the 10 little icicles that used to be my toes. I sighed again and turned around to give my back its turn. That acted like a heated highway for my whole body. In a few minutes, I nearly felt human again, and raising my temperature was almost enough to raise my spirits. I say almost because turning back around to face the lava brought a lot of chilling memories. The most immediate one had to do with what happened to my first house, how I woke up to find the creeper in my living room, to hear the explosion, to see the lava cubes from the hot tub I built upstairs spilling out down my little hill. Enough, I said aloud, trying to shake off the memory as I stepped gingerly around the bubbling red pond. Keep focused. And I did, looking for the safest, easiest slope to climb. I walked around the lava's perimeter, looking for caves, as well as a way out. I worried that any shady shelter might conceal another waiting mob. After falling through the snow, I couldn't afford to relax, but I couldn't see anywhere, any place where a monster could hide, and ironically, the only way I could find one was right back where I started, right next to that lethal stream. The slope seemed to rise in a naturally occurring staircase. Careful, I told myself, careful. I kept my eyes and mind fixed on every step ahead. The slope was nearly barren, not a tree or clump of grass in sight. The only thing growing was a single red flower barely 2 blocks away from the lava stream. You're braver than I am, I told the little poppy, and then noticed something unusual about it. I thought I remembered, but I couldn't be sure, that I passed other flowers that only grew in groups. I tried looking behind me, but through the snow, it was hard to spot any more plant life. I also noticed a weird little quirk of this volcano. The lava poured out from the side. About a third of the way up, right next to the lone poppy, I saw that the source of the stream was a single cube space in the rocks. Weren't they supposed to come from the top? I didn't know. After all, I don't think I was a geologist, or volcanologist, or whatever you call those folks back in my world. For all I knew, this side flow was perfectly normal in both worlds, and the only reason I've taken an entire paragraph to bore you with this question is because it's going to come into play later, just like the smell. I barely noticed it at first, just the faintest whiff, but as I climbed further up, I could swear my nose detected something unusual. I tried a couple deep inhales, but the cold, dry air only made my nostrils hurt. It wasn't the lava, I was sure of that. It was coming up from someplace further up. It smelled like, I'm telling you, this smell, this growing stink drifting down towards me, could only be described as that word that's created when F meets R. Yup, I said it. Okay? Sometimes truth is rude, but that's the plain truth of what I was smelling. Do volcanoes toot? I asked myself, and nearly fell backwards at the audible click that was answered. Click. What was that? I paused, spun, reached for my sword, and again, almost fell right back down the slope. I thought it might have been the skeleton, although experience had taught me that the sound couldn't have been any more different. This wasn't the rapid clickety-clack of bones. This was just one quick, high-pitched click. And then it was gone. And so was the unpleasant smell. Had the wind shifted? No, that doesn't happen in this world. Had I moved past it? Probably, I reasoned. But what if it had been the original source? A crack between the stones? I learned that sometimes diagonal blocks just have the tiniest space between their edges. Raindrops through my island. Houses' slanted roofs taught me that. Maybe this was the case here, and a skeptical slit between 2 stone blocks that was giving off the impolite odor. It was a mystery, to be sure, as was a hole I discovered a few blocks up. Just 1 block in size, pointing out sideways like the lava opening. I peered inside. I saw that it went far back into the darkness. I thought about maybe planting a torch inside for better luck, or even going to work with my pickaxe to see if it led to a larger cave. Don't get distracted, I reminded myself. For all you know, that's just another lava hole ready to erupt. And besides, I looked up at the inviting summit. You're almost there. A few slow, nervous minutes later, I was standing at the top, and for once, luck was with me. The snow stopped falling, the sun came out, and I got my first clear look at the world around me. Thank you, I said to the sun, closing my eyes and letting my face warm up for a second. Good luck, mountain, I breathed, and opened my eyes to take in the view. I was facing east, towards the rising sun, and from this height, I could see all the way to the coast. There was the ocean, barely visible past the chain of low hills, and that thick, pale ice crust that had wrecked my boat. There was a quick snow hole I'd fallen into, and there was the frozen, purplish river I'd crossed. And yes, my polar bear Allie still muddling about at the bank. Turning in a slow 360 arc, I realized that this barren wasteland had a kind of beauty to it. The hills and valleys, the frozen ponds, and occasional trees with their pointed, dark green leaves. There were more red flowers, and even a few yellow ones. And yes, they were all in clusters that broke up the snow. Not bad, I said. Not that I want to live here. Just as I finished my full rotation view, I had noticed a total dark break in the western horizon. It was so far away, I might have missed it if the snow had been falling. Another snaking, iced over river, and beyond that, a forest. Yes, a real, honest to goodness forest, so vast it stretched from one end of my vision to the other. Here we go, I sighed, then repeated with more excitement, here we go. Picking my way down, I had to force myself to go slowly. Careful, I repeated, resisting the urge to jump. Click. That was the sound again. Click. And again. Behind me. I turned, but I couldn't see anything. I scanned the slope I'd just come down. Nothing. I looked left, then right. Everything was quiet, still. Nothing but stone, dirt, and occasional lines of gravel. Soared up, I twisted, ready. Crunch. Another rabbit, with pink eyes and fur as white as snow. Oh, that was you, I said. You've been making those clicking sounds. And, smelling at my own cleverness, I bet that little hole I discovered was your burrow. It felt good to finally be getting a handle on everything, to understand the rules of this new land. At least, that's what I thought. And hey, I said as I reached again for a tempting carrot. You know you want this, right? I couldn't mess this one up. Not with the animal right above me. Nice. I waved the morsel before its small, attentive face. Let's be pals, okay? It looked at me as I stepped closer. That's right, come on, I said, already envisioning our new, lasting friendship. I think I'll name you... No! The last word came as a bouncing squeaker jumped right off the cliff, past me, and crash-landed into the life-ending smoke. Oh my what? I gasped, running to a patch of hovering fur and meat. What were you thinking, you dumb bunny? The remains hopping into my pack. What kind of world lets that happen? I remembered one of my animal friends back on the island blindly loped towards the lava from my house, the chicken roasting itself alive. The memory didn't console me. It only reminded me that this was a rule of life in this world. It didn't help that this was an accident. It just hurt to watch something, anything, innocent die. I had no idea that this small death was nothing compared to the savagery that was waiting for me in the forest. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. The closer I got to it, the more I could smell the forest, which was a nice change from the sterile, stinking air of open tundra. Even with the wind at my back, I got pleasant whiffs of bark and pines, the hint of sap, the faint reminder of cleaning products from that other world, and a holiday as well, a big one. I'm not sure if I celebrated it back home, but a whole lot of other people did, and those memories drifted just out of reach with the smell of the trees up ahead. The forest was vast, mysterious, and inviting. I quickened my pace, practically skipping past what I thought at that time was a huge drift of snow blocks, and crossed the second frozen river into the woods. Getting closer, I could see that they were, in fact, a version of pine trees, spruce specifically, which I'd previously read about in one of those manuals. Some were short, stubby little dwarfs. Others rose high above my head. Brown trunks and green, square pine needles. Dark colors, concentrated, like they were trying to hold in their color the same way I was trying to hold in my body heat. And so many. I chopped down every last birch tree on my island, then replanted them, then chopped them down, and replanted them again, just to build my first mansion. Now I could build 10, 100 homes without making a dent in this forest. And they weren't alone. I noticed what at first looked like saplings, growing here and there. But when I reached down to pick one up, I saw they were this environment's versions of grass, squat and triangular. Some crunched into nothingness, while a few yielded some very familiar seeds. Will this grow into wheat, I wondered, or some new kind of plant? I pocketed the seeds, then tried harvesting something from a taller, fern-like bush. I didn't get anything, but I didn't need to. I was looking for answers, not food. And one question I needed answered was whether creepers could lurk in the shade of these trees. If the little birch grove on my island could have hidden living bombs, which had almost killed me then, how many legions could be lurking under this expansive canopy? And it didn't help my nerves that my visibility extended barely a few blocks in front of my face. Between the dense trees, the grass, ferns, and rolling terrain, I had to be on my guard. Always be aware of your surroundings. Senses heightened, shield ready. I crept slowly through the right-angled underbrush. Even if I don't run into a creeper, I reasoned, there might be an easily startled polar bear over the next ridge, or maybe a brown version that's not as friendly, or some other animal I can't even imagine, just waiting among the bushes. How right I was. Woof! I jumped, not believing my ears. Woof! Again, right over the next rise. A dog? No way, I said, and rushed forward with a beating heart. A dog! It had to be. A new friend, brave, trusting, and loyal to the end. I mean, come on, what better pal is there in this or any other universe? Unless you're a cat person, I guess. Sorry, but I'm a dog person. At least, I think I was, back in my old life. Why else would I have been so excited? And why else would I have been just the slightest bit disappointed to crest the hill to find an animal that could technically be called a dog, but not the kind you want to snuggle on the couch with? This animal was speckled gray, with a narrow tan snout, upright, black-lined ears, and a tail that was definitely not wagging. A wolf. Of course. I read about them in the wildlife book, but as with the bear, I hadn't bothered to study any passage about anything that wasn't right in front of my face. Hi, boy, I said, taking a cautious step forward. Hi. It darted forward. I instinctively retreated, but instead of attacking, it simply looked up at me, barked again, then turned and trotted away. Hey, wait up! I called, hopping after it. Sit, stay. For the third time in this cold, crazy land, I reached into my pack for some food. You hungry, buddy? I asked, dangling the rabbit carcass in front of its nose. You'll know you like this. I might as well have been holding a rock. Gotta be something else, I thought. Another kind of food. Or stick. A log block from my pack gave me 4 planks, which in turn gave me 8 sticks. I held one up, ready to throw. Go get it, boy, I shouted. Go on. Chucking one of the thin batons far over his head, I cheered. Go for it. Look. Come on. Go. No. The wolf just stood there, staring at me with a quizzical expression that had to mean, you gotta be kidding. Then it turned and walked away, leaving me alone once again. What's it gonna take? I huffed, stomping over to retrieve my stick. What's it gonna take to make a friend around here? Bah. I knew that sound. No way it could disappoint. Bah. A sheep, just over the next hummock. And sure enough, not only one, but a whole herd, or flock, or whatever you call them. Half a dozen, grazing peacefully in an open patch of snow. About time, I sighed, feeling like I just found an old friend on the first day of a new school. Bah. Wow, am I happy to see you guys, I breathed. But then added softly, I'm a friend, I mean you no harm. They might have been sheep, but they were still strangers. I climbed slowly down the rise toward them, not sure if this forest variety was more skittish than my island pals. They didn't seem to be afraid of me, or notice me, for that matter. Just like the island type, they were content to randomly munch the ground at their feet. There were a couple black ones, like coal, and white ones like cloud, so bright I almost missed a few against the snow, and gray ones, so many different shades of gray, from the barest off-white to dark, nearly charcoal, to the middle hue that made them perfect ringers for little Rainy, the lamb I helped bring into the world by feeding her parents wheat. And there was a brown one, mixed in among all the others, with a unique, rich coat that reminded me of a milk chocolate bar. Chocolate. The thought of my old world luxury made my mouth water, and as I reached into my pack for some bread, I remembered that I had packed the raw ingredients for bread that I was sure would make me the star of a whole new woolly fan club. Hey, I stepped up to the brown sheep, holding out a handful of blonde, ever-ripe wheat. Does this look better than frozen grass? Bah! Heads went up, all of them. And before I knew it, I had a multicolored stampede on my hands. Whoa, whoa! I gulped as woolly face nuzzled me from all sides. Don't crowd. I should have put this new rule in the old book. Don't offer what you got unless you're ready to share with everybody. One at a time, I demanded, trying to think about how I was going to feed them. In addition to sheer numbers, there was now the issue of who goes first. As I knew from my time on the island, giving the sheep some wheat would quickly create new lambs with a bunch of different color combinations. And who was I to choose the look of this flock's next generation? A lot of power, I breathed as they continued to nudge me back. A lot of responsibility. Bah, they bleated impatiently, as if yelling, can you just get over yourself and feed us already? All right, fine, I growled, deciding on the most basic method. First come, first served. I started feeding whoever was in my face, and wondered if this world could let that face redden. With hearts flying and lambs popping, it was all I could do to not close my eyes. Bah, bah, little, high-pitched calls, mixed with deeper, parental bleats. 5 little lambs in all, 2 white, 2 gray, and a cute brown one that reminded me of little chocolate Chip. "Happy birthday, Chippy," I said, and offered the baby and its siblings their own helping of wheat. "I know you're just an animal, and I know you can't really understand what I'm saying, but on my side, this meeting is the best thing that happened to me since landing here." Little Chip just looked at me, its small black eyes filled with wonder. "'Cause," I continued, "if I found you, maybe I can find other animals to bond with me as well. Maybe," I hesitated at saying chickens, experiencing a twinge of guilt at the memory of losing my last chicken friend. "Maybe a cow, like my friend, Moo, back on my island. You would love her. She is the best." "Bah," Chip answered, and bowed its head for helping of snowy grass. "Yeah, I get it. You've been patient with me long enough." I noticed that now that the wheat was gone, the gathering was breaking up, spreading out among the trees. "You got places to go, and I got a continent to explore." "Bah," replied Chip before ambling away. "See you around, kid," I said, turning back for the west. With a renewed sense of confidence, I strode happily over the next ridge. Meeting the sheep had calmed me enough to get the old brain thinking rationally again. I should probably make a map. No sense in all this exploring if I don't make a record of what I find. I was just going over my stock of iron, redstone, and sugarcane paper when I heard a lone baa back over the last rise. I wouldn't have thought much about it, but that bleat was followed by a quick, familiar bark. "No," I whispered, feeling my blood grow colder than the air. "No, that can't be happening. You're just making assumptions from your own world." And yet, there I was, walking, then running, back the way I came, back over the blocky ridge, and looking down at the empty grazing patch. Almost empty. Two objects were hovering over the bare, snowy turf. A block of white wool and a leg of reddish-pink meat. "No, no, no!" I cried, rushing over to pick them up. It had to be an accident. The sheep must have fallen off the ridge, like the dumb bunny earlier. It couldn't be. Bah, ruff, ruff, blah. Beyond the nearby trees. Sounds. Movement. I raced over just in time to see the wolf pounce on a gray-colored sheep. A flash of red, a loud, pained baa, and Rainy's double was poofed into meat and wool. "No!" I yelled, watching in terror as the carnivorous canine moved on to the little brown lamb. "Chippy!" Running, sword drawn. Baa! A flash of diamond blade. The wolf flew back with a startled yelp. "Get out of here!" I shouted to Chip. "Go on! Run!" Snap! Pain on my armored leg. Turning to see wolf eyes, now glowing red. Grrr. Another snap, blocked by my shield. "Get away from them!" I yelled, raising my sword. Another growl, and another blocked, snarling bite. "Get away!" I swung, knocking the animal against a tree. It yelped, then smoked into a silent puff. "I'm sorry," I breathed, adrenaline ebbing into sadness. "I didn't want to kill you. I know you were only following your nature, but I couldn't let you." Grrr. Something struck me from behind, smashing my face into a tree. Wah! I turned to see 3 more wolves, their eyes seething, red, like giant spiders. Of course, I thought, cursing myself. Again, for not having studied the manual. Wolves run in packs. The first one jumped, so I sliced. Its yelp was drowned out by the growls of the other 2 as they lunged. I grunted as teeth sank into my left leg and right arm. "Back!" I yelled, blade swishing, chopping sideways. "Back!" My cries were cut off as the first wolf leapt at my back. I turned to face it as the other 2 jumped at me again. Slash, block, bite. Outnumbered. I could feel the rending teeth, jaw power capable of breaking bones. I retreated, swinging wildly. The pack closed. I ran. "Lead them away," I thought, dodging trees and hopping rises. Lead them away from the sheep. Get them far enough away before turning to fight. My hyper healing kicked in, replacing pain with hunger. It wasn't enough. I need to rest, to eat. Their snarls were behind me, closing in fast, locked like guided gray missiles. I could see the end of the tree line up ahead. Maybe they'd stop at the wood's edge. Grrr. Maybe not. Barely steps ahead of snapping jaws, I burst through the trees and tumbled down into the frozen river. Grrr. A bite on my hip, sending me skidding across the ice. Get up. Get across. Get to where? That big clump of snow I passed earlier. Only it wasn't a clump. From this angle, I could see a door? Yes, there was a door right in the middle of those white blocks. Whatever did they call those huts in the far north of my world? Igloos? Whatever, it was my only refuge. Running with all my might, leaping in, slamming the door behind me, and looking in amazement at this tiny semi-furnished room. A crafting table, a furnace, even a bed, and, wouldn't you know it, carpet. White wool carpet I always mistook for snow. And there were windows, too. Windows of ice that I missed from the outside because they must have been blocked by falling snow. What the... I began, mind racing, as an outside growl pulled me back to reality. Right, I told the door. I'll be with you in a minute. Gobbling down a few baked potatoes, I began to calculate how I'd be able to take down my 3 furry jailers. They are already wounded, I reasoned, as food put the hyper back in my hyper healing. Or maybe just a swipe or two each. Maybe if I opened the door and let one in at a time. You? A yelp from outside. A cry of canine pain. I tried looking out the windows again. Damn snow. Another squeal. Right after a barely recognizable sound. Thwop. There it was again. The thwang of a bow. The whistle of an arrow. And the unmistakable thunk of it striking home. You, came a third and final yelp. Then, nothing. Silence. Waiting. Hello? A voice. Not mine. Not in my head. A real, honest to goodness voice. Right outside. Hello? Anyone in there? No. Lungs filling. Heart drum rolling. No, it can't. I threw open the door, and there she was. End of Chapter 4. Minecraft the Mountain. Chapter 5. Well, I see I found my hunting cabin. Green eyes, skin lighter than mine. Well, not technically mine, in the sense that I didn't build it myself. Thing just sort of popped into existence one day, like the rabbits and polar bears. And, well, I suppose, me and you, if you're anything like me. A high voice, soft, and with an accent? Well, go on then, say something. Clad from head to toe in leather, with a slowly lowering bow. If not a thank you, then at least a hello would suffice. Real? I couldn't believe it. I'd been burned up so often, gotten my hopes up too many times. Illusion? Hallucination? Or maybe like the belief that first day on the island. A dream? Well, maybe you can't speak. I tried. I couldn't. Dizzy. Mind racing. Too much to process. To believe. Or maybe you don't understand what I'm saying. Or maybe, lowering the weapon fully, you're just too cold for words. Heaven knows I was when I woke up here. Packing the bow away, hands free to remove the hide helmet and chest plate. Here. Tossed at my feet, hovering above the snow. It's not exactly a winter coat, but rabbit hide does keep one warmer than diamond. With the helmet and chest plate gone, I could see a head of sunset golden hair, painted on, just like mine. but continuing down a ponytail on a green shirt. You don't have to accept it, or if you'd prefer to change inside the igloo, swift motions, away with the sword, shield, and diamond armor. The rabbit fur was warmer, not by much, but offering just enough flexibility to keep my body's warmth air within. The feeling of it against my skin, the physical sensation of touch. That's when I think finally broke me out of my stupor. One final sense to back up my eyes and ears. This was real. Thank you. So you do talk? The laugh. The first real music I'd heard in this world. And you're quite welcome. Thank you, I said again. Thank you to my rescuer, to the sky, to luck. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't plan to run to her. And in my static stupor, I completely forgot that this world wouldn't let you hug. Hang on there, retreating quickly, backing up with waving hands. A little personal space, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I stammered. I've been alone for so long. I hadn't had a friend to talk to since. Hang on, and in a cooling tone, we're not friends. We've only just met. Yeah, I know, but, I spluttered. I mean, come on, we're both not from here. You just said so, right? We're both strangers, which makes us strangers. Another step back, to each other as well as to this world. In fact, I know this world a good deal better than I know you. Oh, come on, I pouted. You know what I mean. I do, and you're wrong. You're wrong. No one had ever said that to me before. At least, no one I could remember. I'm sure that back in my world, our world, someone must have told me I was wrong at least once or twice. But since I'd woken up here, I've only had my animal pals for conversation, and their moos and boas have been an outward expression of my inner monologues. Now here, for the first time, was a dialogue, a conversation with another thinking, talking person, who had just told me that what I believed was wrong. But, I pressed, talking way before my brain had time to okay the words, there's like two of us now, and we're the same, and you don't know that. A third step backward. You don't know that we came from the same world or even the same part of the same world. You don't know anything about me other than I look similar to you. Just because you look similar to someone doesn't make them a friend, I finished, quoting a rule I come up with after almost being poisoned by the witch. Rule 25. I gave a resigned sigh. Pardon? Nothing. Sorry. I'll tell you later, if... And suddenly, my stomach nodded. Is there a later? I mean, if you don't want company or anything. No, let's not be dramatic. A slight chuckle, and my insides began to relax. I'm just saying you can't be friends with someone you don't know yet, and I don't know anything about you. A small, welcome step closer. I don't even know your name. Oh yeah, I turned to chuckle. Right. I totally don't know what my name is. Really? A loud laugh this time. Warm and kind. I was just winding you up. I don't know my name either. Never needed to. No one to address me up till now. Ha! I guffawed back. I know, right? I guess we need names. I'll be... No, let me name you. Leaning closer. Again, examining me up and down. So much more fun. Like that book about the lad who shipwrecked on the island and names a native after a day of the week. Although it probably should have been the other way around, don't you think? A bit twisted, him being the visitor and casting himself as the Lord. I just shrugged. I've heard of the book, and full disclosure, if I'd even bothered to read it, it might have made my real-life island trial a heck a lot easier. One more thing I gotta do when I get home. So, let's see what we can see. Green eyes continued to look me over. Well, you're a guy. I am? I asked, genuinely surprised. How do you know? Well, you have a beard. I do? Definitely. A little brown, goatee thingy around your mouthy. After all this time, all of my amazing accomplishments and discoveries, I still hadn't figured out a way to see my own reflection. I guess, if I really think about it, I've always thought of myself as a guy. Guy, she repeated, about as proper as anything else. And you, I began. Well, I'm definitely a girl. Really? Okay, for the record, while I've been referring to her as a girl in these pages, and while I've been thinking of her as a girl, I, until this moment, had no actual evidence to do that. I mean, dudes can have long hair, and a high voice doesn't mean anything. In fact, I wasn't even sure that she had a high voice because of her accent. Seemed to lilt musically when she spoke. How do you know you're a girl? I asked. It's how I feel, and it's the type of name I want. Fair enough, I answered. Do you want me to call you girl? Oh, good Lord, no, she exclaimed. Do you always name things so literally? Before I could point out that she just named me Guy, she continued, it's got to be something thoughtful, something powerful and strong, and beautiful, and that I don't mind hearing at any random moment during the day. Oh, is that all? I asked sarcastically. No pressure there. And she laughed again. That wonderful laugh that warmed me like a summer breeze. Summer, I said confidently. Then, I mean, if that's cool with you. She took a moment, mentally digesting it, then nodded. Perfect. I think a lot of cultures on my world have a lot of different greetings. I think some shake hands, some bow, some put their hands over their hearts. That one's my favorite. But, like almost all the gestures, it's impossible for my rigid, angular form to accomplish. What I could do, and did, was step within arm's length and extend the soft flesh cube of my hand. Nice to meet you, Summer. She copied my motion exactly, bumping my fist with hers. Nice to meet you, Guy. I like to say it was a touch of her fist, the solid, reassuring human contact that made me shiver. But, in all honesty, I was just probably cold. I shivered, which produced a giggling response from Summer. Come on then, she said, turning away. Let's get you home and properly warmed up. Home? I asked, noticing that she turned away from the igloo. Isn't this where you live? Are you mad? She asked as she walked away. Well, I said, running to keep up. Didn't you say it appeared when you did? Oh, if only, she answered, leading me back in the general direction of the coast. This just recently came along, long after I really needed it. But when I first got here, she began at her beginning, and wow, did I try to listen to every word. But it was so hard with my mind racing through everything that was happening. I wasn't alone anymore. I'd found, well, not a friend. Summer seemed pretty clear about that. But why? Why the distance? Why wasn't she just as happy to find me as I was to find her? I figured I asked her later, after I earned her friendship. This was a new type of lesson, a friendship lesson, or what I like to call a freshen. I know, me, always having to figure out the rules. But it'd been the key to my survival all this time. Crafting, mining, monsters, everything had rules, and as my own lesson number 7 states, figuring out the rules turns them from enemies into friends. It made sense that it could be any different with friendship. There had to be boundaries, rights and wrongs, especially when dealing with another human being. This would be way more complicated and potentially more hazardous than dealing with my simple animal pals. Just thinking about all the ways to mess up made me shiver more than the cold did. I couldn't afford to alienate her or drive her away and ruin my only chance to not be alone again. I realized I have to learn a whole long list of freshens, with the second one right on the heels of the first. Friends, listen. So I did, fighting through all the inner thoughts. If just read, try to pay attention to what she's talking about. I know I missed more than a few details, but I got the basic gist of her origin. Like me, Summer had woken up underwater, shot for the surface, found herself alone, and swum until she sighted land. Unlike me, however, she wasn't lucky enough to find a lush green island. She'd come ashore on the ice-crusted beach. No apple trees, no animal companions. She'd begun starving on day one, and had that been me, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have lived past day two. She'd taken out a lone spruce tree within minutes of walking ashore and discovered how to make a crafting table immediately, and from there how to make tools and weapons. If you read my first book, you know how long that took me, and how long it took me to get up the courage to fight my first monster. Summer didn't have that luxury. That first night on the ice, as the sun set and the mobs rose, she'd had to fight for her life with a wooden axe and sword until she killed enough zombies, or Zed as she calls them, to live on their flesh for days. Because that's what she did, without any cow milk to chase away the hyper hunger. Those first few days were brutal, freezing, exploring, constantly sick and hungry from barely enough toxic ghoul meat to survive. She couldn't fish because she didn't know about spider silk, and she couldn't hunt rabbits because back then there hadn't been any. Apparently, this taiga had originally been emptier than when I'd arrived. I honestly don't think I would have made it, especially given how long it took me to start figuring things out. I probably would have just wasted away in some hand-dug hole. It almost happened my first night on the island, burying myself alive as a zombie lurked outside. Had that happened here, and if I'd been as hungry, cold, and injured as Summer, I might have just given up. She never did. She always fought back, and those early wins, both on the battlefield and on the crafting table, had given her the confidence to keep moving down the coast and then inland, looking for, well, something better, including a chance for rescue. That sure had been my goal when I first reached the island. But because it was an island, I'd been forced to stay in one place and make do with what I had. With her, there had always been the hope of something beyond the next ridge. I think the term is nomadic, although she described it as being a hunter-gatherer. She'd gathered crafting wood from trees by day and hunted zombies for their flesh by night. She hadn't thought of mining yet, or agriculture. Those had to come with staying put, which came with the discovery of the cave. It was on the morning of the 10th day. Can you believe it? 10 whole days. That she'd climb up the bank of a frozen river and saw what looked like a dark hole at the base of a lonely mountain. She hadn't thought of investigating, but when a zombie shambled out and promptly burned into that morning's breakfast, her hunter's instincts thought there might be more inside. While there weren't, she did discover something just as valuable as food: shelter. After so much fruitless wandering, Summer had realized it might be a good time to stop and figure out a new strategy, and this cave seemed like a safe enough place to do it, especially after exploring the shallow interior and finding the same blessed game changer that had chased my nightmares away: coal. With torches fixed to the wall and a door she'd previously, and accidentally, crafted against the entrance, she'd finally had a safe place to think, experiment, and grow. Agriculture, iron, you get it. The cave itself, which, apparently, I'd walked right over and passed without ever realizing it, because just as Summer finished telling me what I've just told you, she stopped at the base of, get this, the volcano. End of chapter 5.